Ok les amis, j'espère que vous allez bien. Nouveau jeu pour YouTube, j'espère que tout roule pour vous, le chat aussi. The STANLEY PARABLE Ultra Deluxe. Alors je crois qu'il était sorti déjà, pas l'Ultra Deluxe mais simple jeu. Là je crois qu'il y a des améliorations au niveau, niveau chapitre, il y en a plusieurs. Niveau graphique, amélioration. On va voir ce que ça vaut, je sais pas trop, je ne suis pas spoil. Je sais qu'il est bien noté, que c'est un jeu, me semble-t-il, narratif. Donc nous allons voir, c'est notre prochaine vidéo sur YouTube. Un jeu qui ne sera pas forcément très long. Donc allons-y, gaiement, faisons-nous plaisir avec ce bon petit jeu. Ils nous ont demandé quand même de rentrer l'heure. Ça doit avoir, à mon avis, ça doit servir à quelque chose, je pense. Alors, est-ce qu'il est en français ou pas?
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Ah oui, c'est des travails ça.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
Comme né pour ce travail, c'est un peu lugubre ce travail-là. Ça me fait penser à
And then one day,
un jeu qu'on a
something
fait,
very
Last Stop.
peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi.
Ah oui, c'est vide.
Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, bon, bah là je suppose que c'est à moi, non? Ok. Oula, ça gaze. Alors bizarrement, voilà, il n'y a aucune instruction sur l'ordinateur. Ok. Allons voir. On peut ouvrir les portes ou pas? Ok, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire sur les boutons? Ah, on peut se baisser. Intéressant.
All of his co-workers were
Tous ses collègues avaient disparu, mais
What did
pourquoi?
it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
C'est la soirée, à
Perhaps
cette
he had
réunion,
simply
il avait
missed a
peut-être
memo.
simplement raté le mémo. Ça me semble louche ton histoire là, mon ami.
No matter how hard Stanley
Stanley avait
looked,
beau
he couldn't find a
écarquiller les
trace
yeux,
of
il ne
his
trouvait pas de traces de
co-workers.
ses collègues. J'avoue, il n'y a personne, mon ami. Ah ouais, mais... Putain, c'est un matricule, quoi. Tu es en prison, là. Un tiroir ouvert? Non? Incroyable. C'est vide. Que s'est-il passé?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Dans celle de gauche. T'es sûr qu'il faut l'écouter, le gajo, là? Le mec? Ouais, on va essayer de l'écouter une fois. Oh là, la porte s'est refermée. Eh, on m'a pas dit que c'était un jeu d'horreur.
Yet there was not a single
Pourtant,
person
non
here
plus, il y avait
either.
personne.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Yeah. Et le bureau du chef, il est où? Ah, toutes les portes se referment derrière nous. Cool.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he
Mais
turned
il n'y trouva
around
rien.
and got
Il
back
s'en
on
retourna et
track.
poursuivit sa route. Ah ouais, non, mais il nous indique vraiment... Stanley vient d'aller pisser. Incroyable.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, on va écouter hein, la voix. Ici, la voix. Je crois pas que c'est là. Eh, bonjour tout le monde. Non, mais c'est pour aller pisser, là. C'est les chiottes. On voit pas sa tête. Ils ont flouté le miroir. C'est le bureau du chef, ça.
Stepping into his manager's office,
Entrant dans le bureau de
Stanley
son
was
chef,
once again
Stanley fut de nouveau
stunned to discover not an
stupéfait de
indication
constater
of
l'absence
any
totale de
human
présence
life.
humaine.
Shocked,
Choqué,
unraveled,
abattu,
Stanley
Stanley
wondered in
se demanda
disbelief
qui avait
who
bien pu
orchestrated
orchestrer ça.
this. What dark secret was being
Et
held
sans
from
ce fait
him?
lui était
What he
ainsi
could
caché.
not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845.
Ah ouais, il est confidentiel ton code là.
But of course,
2845.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
28-45. On va essayer. Voilà.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He
Le coup de
stepped
bol,
into
il a
the
dit.
newly opened passageway.
Ok. Ça me fait peur leur truc là. Petit ascenseur.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Oui.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ok. Ok, ok.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Là, pour l'instant, on n'a pas grand chose à élucider. Les caméras, ça.
Now the monitors
Oula.
brought to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building. Stanley's
Oh, le
co-workers.
fanatique.
The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen. And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
C'est pour ça ils ont tous un numéro. Et ils sont tous filmés. Incroyable.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
C'est un peu la prison là. J'ai vu tout à l'heure qu'il y avait un écran mort, non? Qui raid. C'est le seul d'ailleurs. Ah non, il y en a deux. Ok, bon.
No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Ah ouais, tu y crois toi? Est-ce que je peux toucher un truc là? Oui. Ok. Et là, on n'y voit pas grand-chose. Hein. Je sais pas trop où aller là. Il n'y a pas de lumière? Deux. C'est quoi cette feinte? Non, à moins qu'il faille... Est-ce qu'on venait par là? Je sais plus. Non, ouais.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Off. Allez, un petit off. Le problème, c'est qu'on n'y verra plus du tout. Ah ouais. Ok. Ça a carrément coupé le jeu, non?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Ah oui, non, là, déjà c'est mieux là.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Obtenir votre premier trophée. Attends, là c'est son bureau là. C'est de par là où on vient.
All of his co-workers were
Ses collègues
gone.
avaient disparu, mais
What could
pourquoi?
it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Mais attends, c'est ce qu'on vient de faire. C'est quoi cette histoire? Est-ce que j'ai manqué un truc? Est-ce qu'il fallait aller à droite au lieu d'aller à gauche tout à l'heure? À cette fameuse porte. Par exemple
When
là.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his
Ah,
left.
sans doute. À mon avis, c'est ça la feinte. Je pense. On va aller à droite.
This was not the correct way
Ce
to
n'est
the
pas la bonne
meeting
façon
room,
de se
and
rendre à la salle
Stanley
de
knew
réunion.
it perfectly
Stanley
well.
était...
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ah. La salle de pause. Ouais, dégain.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour
pas ça,
after
hein?
all, just to
Un petit
spend a
coca,
few
là.
moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Stanley. Je sais pas ce que tu fais là, mais...
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Ouais, ok. Attends, peut-être qu'ils me disent des indices dans la façon du scénar.
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Ah, du coup, c'est pas la bonne heure parce que j'ai démarré le jeu un peu plus tard. Donc il y a 10 minutes d'écart.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
C'est ça que je suis en train de me dire. Est-ce que le jeu n'est pas en train de me faire un message? Attends, on va aller voir plus loin. Allez. Un petit café quand même, non?
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Pour se mettre au travail.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Je sais pas s'il faut suivre ce qu'il te dit et envoyer le jeu là. Moi j'ai bien envie d'aller là.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Je ne sais pas si c'est à gauche, mon ami. De toute façon, on n'aura pas le choix.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, it's to the right, my mistake.
Ah non, mais frère, tu fais ce que tu veux, toi. On est où là?
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Pour cette histoire. Tu vois, ça dépend où on va, en fait. L'histoire se recrée.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning.
Quoi?
And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Allez, repartez du début. Mais frère. Non mais lui il est en train de mener un bateau de fou. Mais là tu es en train de nous prendre pour des navets. Appelle les flics. Ah, j'ai pas touché un truc là? Non. Bon.
All of his co-workers
C'est que il avait disparu, mais pourquoi il recommence?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Qu'est-ce que c'est cette histoire?
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Allons trouver l'histoire. Laquelle de porte? Est-ce que je peux sauter, genre? Moi, je saurais bien aller là. C'est compliqué de fait. Là, je suis déjà allé, du coup. Là, je suis déjà allé. Il y a quoi, là, au fond? Allez, on va commencer par celle-là. Tiens, c'est les backrooms. What?
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again?
Mais arrête.
Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Putain, il va nous faire recommencer à chaque fois qu'on prend pas le bon chemin, je pense alors.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Et il retrace la même histoire après.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Alors, à moins qu'il faut que j'aille, je sais pas comment au tout début, suivre ce qu'il me dit, mais...
Okay,
allez,
it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Mais il se fout de ma gueule. Il est ouf. Tiens, on peut rien prendre, il n'y a rien à prendre.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something.
Un
The
casier?
story. Here it comes.
La voilà quoi? Ta grand-mère. Ta grand-mère qu'on voit là?
No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Non mais il me prend pour un fou. Oui.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations!
Vous avez gagné.
I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
C'est quoi ce délire? J'y comprends chi.
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart.
Oh non. Je comprends pas trop le délire du jeu là. J'ai du mal à suivre.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line.
Parable.
Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Enfantin, non? Mais est-ce que réellement il faut la suivre, ta ligne là?
You see, the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay, now if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience
Whoa.
this office, is this office in fact the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct?
Whoa.
Hang on, that got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Cut the music. Go
Bah ouais,
back
arrêtez la
and
musique.
look at that
Faites
fern.
demi-tour, allez voir là. J'ai pas vu.
Stanley, this fern
Cette fougère
is very
va prendre
important
son importance
later in
plus haut
the
dans l'histoire.
story. Make sure you study it closely
Étudiez-la
and
attentivement et
remember it
souvenez-vous-en
carefully.
bien.
You won't want to miss
Il vaut
anything.
mieux que vous ne ratiez rien. Mais tu es fou quoi. C'est une fougère frère, c'est une plante verte que t'arroses tous les jours. Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je voyais? C'est un fou. Je n'ai aucune idée de ce qu'il faut observer. Écoute. Je sais pas s'il est pas en train de mener un bateau celui-là.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable. The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
Pas du tout mon ami, ça me dit rien du tout. Du coup il nous a fait faire quoi? Le tour du monde pour rien quoi.
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... No, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it.
J'arrête.
Restart.
Redémarrer. Eh, putain.
You know what, Stanley?
Oh.
I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Non mais frère.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Bah écoute, déjà...
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Ah ok, donc maintenant il faut lui accorder aucune attention à la ligne. Ni à la salle d'écran. Mais là malheureusement, on est obligé de la suivre. Mais ça c'est un jeu pour te faire dérailler ça.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute.
Tourner en rond quelques instants.
Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with that counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going?
Comment ça va, Mimi?
And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Il me rend fou. Il me rend fou. Mais ça va, Mimi est un peu claqué. Je suis claqué, ouais. En vrai, je suis complètement claqué. Ça fait 4 jours que je suis claqué. J'ai la jambe en vrac, mais ça va. La jambe, elle est bloquée. Je sais pas ce que j'ai fait. Mais écoute, j'ai dit bon, faut que je repointe le bout de mon nez un peu sur Twitch.
Oh, hold up, what's
Et toi,
this?
tu dis quoi de beau?
The confusion ending. You're telling me
C'est en
that's
train
what
de
this
dire que
is? It's all one giant ending?
vous avez joué la fin
And we're supposed to
troublante
restart
pendant...
the game what, eight times?
Quoi?
That's really how all this goes? It's all determined?
Chaman?
So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall.
6e redémarrage, 8e redémarrage,
who
ok.
consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Ok.
And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
Ils sont en train de m'emboucaner.
So, okay.
Je n'y comprends rien.
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination, so I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Oh putain, il m'a fait caguer dessus, quoi. Alors, bien ce week-end. Bon, écoute, sans plus, hein, j'ai travaillé aujourd'hui. Donc, véritablement, il me reste que demain à me reposer. Mais sinon, ça va. Tranquillou. Allez, on redémarre. Mais frère, je n'y comprends rien.
all of his co-workers
Tous ses
were
collègues
gone,
avaient disparu.
what could
Et
it
pourquoi?
mean?
Mais il
Stanley
redémarre.
decided
Il
to go
redit
to
la
the
même chose.
meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
J'ai vraiment pas saisi. Je pense qu'il y a des chemins à prendre, mais
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Mais là, on redémarre tout. Alors, attends, je comprends plus rien. Là. Est-ce que genre on était arrivé au bout du jeu, mort de rire, et que c'était pas bon? S'il dit je vais à la gauche, je vais à droite, moi.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Il est en train de me rendre
wow. Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness Stanley had taken this detour on his way to the meeting room. Life without having experienced this room was now too horrible even to consider. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Et quoi? Première à gauche, là? Ouais, tout à l'heure, j'y étais allé. Attends, je vais aller tout droit.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Et genre, il faut suivre les instructions. Et depuis tout à l'heure, il me mène en bateau avec ses instructions. Là. Il est fou. Vous êtes fou. Oh oui.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Quand il dit pour elle, il veut parler de qui? Je comprends pas là.
This is it, Stanley.
Voilà,
your
Stanley,
chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Elle attend. Oula.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Wall.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Bonjour, madame.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Bonjour, employé 427. Appuie sur croix sur votre manette.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Ça, j'avais capté. Dès que t'appuies, c'est les bouts d'un clavier. Veuillez appuyer sur rond.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Bon, il me perd complètement le truc.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Pour regarder la télévision.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Pour faire passer le temps entre potes.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Pour lire une histoire aux enfants.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed.
Oui.
The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Et alors, si je le fais pas, ça il se passe quoi?
You see?
Vous voyez?
Can he just not hear
Ne
me?
m'entend-il pas?
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Je suis pas obligé de faire ça ou je suis obligé? Mais what?
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Veuillez mourir.
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Veuillez mourir, il te demande. Non mais bravo. C'est quoi ce jeu de fou, de tordu? Après, ça m'amène à vouloir comprendre un peu plus quand même. Parce que là, je suis un peu perdu là. Et on recommence. Et voilà. Et c'est reparti. Hein. Alors, est-ce qu'on prend pas le bon chemin d'office?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Je vais réécouter ce qu'il me dit. Mais j'ai comme un doute que c'est pas bon.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Attends, alors, tout à l'heure, je suis
Coming
monté.
to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his
Si
boss's
je descends.
office.
Une voiture.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
Comment les créateurs ils arrivent à imaginer ça?
I am okay.
Salutations, monsieur Adrou, comment allez-vous? Ça va, Adrou, tranquillou?
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Mais il est complètement fou ce jeu. Ah ben ça va, moi mon poulet tranquillou, j'ai vu ton message tout à l'heure. Ouais, j'étais passé te faire un petit coucou, mais j'ai pas pu rester longtemps. Mais j'ai vu que tu n'avais pas capté. Tu dois te concentrer à ton jeu.
Gathered her belongings and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, For just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal.
Ce jeu,
I am
je ne
sane.
comprends absolument
I
rien.
am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Waouh. Là, ça fait quand même 50 minutes où je n'ai toujours pas compris le but du jeu. T'as vu mon MP? Ouais, ouais. Je te l'ai dit tout à l'heure. J'ai vu ton MP là, tout à l'heure. Ouais, j'ai vu que tu n'avais pas vu. Mais bon, je suis pas resté longtemps, je devais partir après. Mais je t'ai juste passé te faire un petit coucou. Mais je pense que tu étais concentré sur les sims. Du coup, t'as pas dû voir. Bon, on se
All of
retrouve
his
à la route, quoi.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Lol, tu es trop vieux pour ça, chou. T'es pas gentil, Mimi. Tu n'es pas gentil. Non, mais sérieux. Qui a compris?
When Stanley came to a set of two open
Là, il me fait
doors, he
refaire
entered the
toutes les
door
mêmes
on his
choses.
left.
Tout à l'heure, je suis allé à gauche. On retourne à gauche. En vrai, il est en train de me rendre complètement à la masse. Déjà que je le suis un peu, tu vois.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave
Pardon.
of disbelief, Stanley decided to
Mais
go
non,
up to
t'inquiète,
his
Mimi.
boss's office,
C'est que je plaisante,
hoping he
moi aussi.
might find an answer there.
Ah, j'ai plus 20 ans, c'est sûr, hein. C'est passé, hein.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Bon, du coup, tout à l'heure, je suis descendu, je me suis retrouvé dans le garage. Je ne savais pas quoi faire non plus. Donc, on va monter. Tout à l'heure, on était allé là aussi. Là, c'était fermé. Non, c'était ouvert, c'est vrai, c'était les chiottes. Oui, ils sont loin, nos 20 ans. Eh ouais, Mimi. Ils sont loin, mais pas dans la tête. Dans la tête, ils sont tout juste là. À peine.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Ah ouais, je l'ai fait ça
What
tout
could
à
it
l'heure.
mean? Stanley
Ils me
wondered
refont faire les mêmes
aloud
choses.
to
Je vais
nobody.
pleurer.
He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf,
Et regarde derrière
looking
le tableau.
behind paintings,
Derrière les tableaux.
desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra
Non,
secret
on
pin
fout.
number,
Non, on fout.
2845.
Ouais, bah,
But of
45,
course,
ce qu'on a fait tout à
Stanley
l'heure.
couldn't possibly have known this.
Tu vois qu'il va nous refaire recommencer le jeu. C'est un fou, ce truc.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying
Merde.
to input anything on
Si
the
j'entre un
device
autre
was
code genre.
useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Ouais, bon.
28. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
C'est exactement ce que j'ai fait tout à l'heure au début. C'est un truc de ouf.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ah, escape. Tout à l'heure, je peux passer par là, je suis allé tout droit.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Une mort violente au bout de ce passage. Non mais frère. C'est-à-dire qu'on va recommencer.
Not shut.
Pas derrière lui.
Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get
Non,
back
non, non,
on
on va au
track.
bout, nous. Quand on s'engage, on
At
s'engage.
this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Au devant de la mort. Waouh. Intriguant.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind
C'est ce
man.
délire.
And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end
putain,
to
il
his
va m'éclater,
brief
là.
and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Adieu. Non? Ah non, c'était bloqué.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly. In a literal instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Et même pas, tu vois. C'est quoi cette histoire?
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Ah, je n'ai aucune idée de ce qu'il cherche à comprendre, lui.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
En plus, ils font que tchatcher. Tu sais pas vraiment... Couloir. Le rythme... Waouh. Qu'est-ce que c'est ce truc? Remerciements. Je ne comprends absolument rien. Le bureau. Son de bouton. Wow. Et si... Non, il n'y a pas le 7. Non, mais c'est ouf. Exit.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to
C'est la seule
beat
façon
this
de battre le
game.
jeu.
As long as you move forward,
Si
you'll
vous
be
décidez
walking
d'avancer,
someone
vous
else's
suivez le
path.
chemin.
Stop
Un chemin
now
déjà
and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Putain, tu me diras qui a compris dans le jeu là. Les créateurs, c'est des fanatiques, c'est des fous. Là, je vais recommencer au bureau, non? Voilà. Je vais acheter une corde. Je vais me pendre dans un bureau. Pas moyen. Et là, il va me reparler. Non?
All of his
Voilà.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley
La même
decided to go
chose.
to the meeting room.
Ah, je
Perhaps
comprends
he had
plus, oui.
simply missed a memo.
Ah, ça, c'était pas ouvert tout à l'heure. Alors attends, peut-être qu'à force de tourner, on finit par ouvrir des portes.
Oh, new
Oh,
content.
nouveau contenu.
What does that mean? New content.
Mes frères.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Bah déjà, si vous arrivez à nous faire comprendre le jeu, c'est bien.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, here we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the
Cercle
jump
pour sauter.
circle.
Waouh, super. Ah ouais, ok, il faut faire 31 sauts. C'est fou.
Is that it?
C'est tout?
Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes.
No.
I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Waouh. Là, je ne sais vraiment pas quoi penser du jeu là. Là on redémarre, c'est pas la même salle en face. Voilà, normalement c'était ça à la base.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
Non, mais c'est un truc de malade ce jeu. Il n'y a rien qui fasse que je comprenne un truc là.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
Même si tu essaies de lire, de comprendre, tu comprends rien quoi.
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap PlayStation port? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste. And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created.
Les jeux jamais
Did you hear that,
ça, je confirme.
Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Ah non, mais il était super bien noté et tout, mais putain. Va comprendre, toi, le truc.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation, boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'on s'en bat le steak?
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them. Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. To be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Attends, on refait là encore, non? Non.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
Moi, j'ai rêvé d'un bouton compréhension.
Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your great gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go.
Oh.
Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their pressurized gas review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours.
Allez, nique ta mère.
You've just been frozen there.
On va appuyer là.
I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're...
Allez, bim.
Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's... Oh, hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you.
Non mais j'en peux plus là. L'arbre il est sec. Le bouton a disparu. Non. La lampe est tombée. La pendule quoi. C'est quoi ce bip? ça là-haut qui fait bip bip là.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't...
Mais... Il est insensé comme jeu.
The end is never the end, 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 is never.
Qu'est-ce que c'est ce putain de délire? Y a rien de plus, hein, à part qu'il y a la lumière. Ah ouais, non mais là il y a la jungle. Ah mais le temps passe, du coup ça pousse. Ok. Mais je vois pas le but du jeu quoi. Non mais qui a la patience pour ça? Oh oui, non mais là on est sur Mars. C'est un délire. Mais waouh. Je crois que quand tu finis le jeu, tu pars à l'asile. Hein. Si tu finis le jeu. À vrai dire, je sais pas vraiment quoi penser. Vraiment. Je peux pas dire je kiffe. Mais c'est une intrigue de pas savoir.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started.
Là,
And if it
par contre,
did,
il a
it
changé le
stopped
discours.
shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Est-ce qu'il y a une autre porte qui s'est ouverte? Genre celle-là, là. Ben celle-là, c'est celle qu'on avait traversée. Là, vous nous demandez de... Ah ouais, non, putain. Mais il n'y avait pas le panneau tout à l'heure.
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
J'étais juste en train de me rendre taré. On est reparti. On est reparti à l'ascenseur là.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2.
Dis, le mec il fait la promo de son jeu quand même.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel, an entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Peut-être qu'en vrai, il aurait fallu faire le 1 pour pouvoir comprendre.
Go on, try out some of the new features.
Testez-moi ces nouvelles fonctionnalités. Mais déjà, il faudrait savoir par où on passe. Comprends-tu? C'est la même là, c'est la même porte. Là, un couloir. Exit. Ils m'ont fumé.
Oh goodness, Stanley, this is very awkward.
C'est assez gênant.
I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to both the exhibits for the bucket and the collectibles. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves both of them. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the collectibles and the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair now.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'il me raconte?
Now, here's something special. You remember that broken test trophy that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the trophy. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the trophy will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the trophy is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Mais c'est quoi ce truc? C'est tétanisant ce truc là. C'est la première fois que je fais un jeu pareil. Autant tordu quoi.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Waouh.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Ah ouais, moi je saute direct.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Great! Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Putain, là j'essaie de comprendre le truc là, mais... Je sais pas, on dirait une présentation de jeu. Il nous présente le jeu, le mec. Il nous fait sa promo. Alors ça, j'ai jamais vu ce jeu, un jeu autant taré que ça. Ils ont fumé les devs, c'est pas possible. Je ne sais plus où aller. Pas mettre champion du monde.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course,
vraiment les joueurs,
first
c'est de
and most
comprendre.
obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Mon papier déjà.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Jim.
Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Putain.
Jim.
Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation.
Jim.
Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Non mais là c'est bon, on a déjà tout perdu. On sait plus qui on est là. Je n'ai jamais vu un jeu pareil. Coucou mon crypto, comment il va le poulet? Et merci pour les cheers. Merci mon poulet, c'est cool. Merci beaucoup pour la force.
I suppose I could
c'est
allow
plus
only
voilé.
people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Si à la fin du jeu, je suis complètement taré. Je n'y comprends absolument rien. Ben ça va mon poulet tranquillou. Un peu fatigué je t'avoue. La semaine bien chargée. Mais ça va, écoute, on est là.
Was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it
Je suis en
engendered
train de
a
faire un jeu
chaotic sense
où
of
ça fait
reckless despair in
1h40
those who
que
play
je ne
it.
comprends rien.
Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket,
Ah ouais,
the
alors.
many disorienting
Alors là,
contradictions of the Stanley Parable will
je
feel
suis
perfectly
perdu.
normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is
Ah ouais,
in
je
your
t'assure,
arms.
c'est-
And to be honest,
Je sais pas
it's
qui
a
connaît
much
ce jeu.
more convenient solution for me than actually
Mais l'enculé.
redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well?
Mais
I think that just
complètement
holding
fondu,
it
les
has made you
créateurs
the
ils sont fondus.
slightest bit more
C'est
attractive
incroyable.
as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Ça fait 10 ans qu'il nous dit que The The Stanley Parable 2, c'est le top. Et ça fait 2 heures qu'on galère. Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je branle avec ce saut là? Ah ça y est, la porte elle est ouverte maintenant. Non mais...
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award
Si
if
ça
it
n'existe
isn't
pas déjà, il
already.
faudrait le créer. Oh. Mon dieu. Quoi? Il n'y avait pas genre un téléphone là?
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Je vais te dire lui là, pour te faire chier.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th birthday, step-niece, it is. Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
Waouh. Oh, je sais plus du tout quoi faire. Je crois qu'il est en train de me rendre taré en vrai. Ah, il faut sauter là, non? Jump.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's a... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Waouh. Attends, là, je reviens là. Je crois pas que je suis monté en haut là. Oh là.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Ok. Superbe.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Là, j'y suis allé là déjà. Ça, je vais y retourner, on va voir. Ça, à mon avis, ce sera déverrouillable à la fin, je pense. Prends la camionnette, là, tu te casses. Ah non, mais là, c'est l'histoire des ballons. Là-haut. C'est quoi déjà? Ah, c'est là où on a récupéré le seau. D'ailleurs, je sais pas ce qu'il faut faire avec ce seau. Mais j'ai tout fait là, ta grand-mère. Qu'est-ce qu'il veut que je fasse?
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Ah, attends, je vais ressauter dans le vide avec le seau. D'ailleurs, je sais plus où elle est cette salle. Non, c'est pas là. C'est là, là.
Okay, and I guess we're back in the hole now. Did you really need to see it again? I don't know what else there is to say, Stanley. It's an infinite hole. It's exactly what you're doing right now, but forever. There really are so many other fascinating exhibits that I prepared for you. I really spent quite a lot of time on all this, and I would very much like to show you some more of them. How about we go ahead and press that teleport button again so we can get back to what's really important about... Oh, goodness. Well, this is rather embarrassing, Stanley. I'll be honest with you. I truly did not believe that anyone would actually stay in the hole long enough to hit the bottom. Yes, I know, I told you the hole was infinite, but come on! Who actually wants to fall forever? The hole was plenty deep. It was more than deep enough, in my opinion. Maybe it's you who likes falling too much. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Tu es en train de me rendre fou. Ah ouais, mais on peut pas passer là. problème c'est que je peux pas sauter, je peux rien faire. Donc bon. À part me baisser. Là-bas on peut pas y aller. Est-ce qu'il y a... Reprendre la partie, hein, paramètres. Il n'y a rien qui te dit ce qu'il faut faire quoi. Le jump on peut pas. Je suis monté par là. Ouais. Alors là, mon ami, je suis complètement perdu. Je sais pas, le coup des trophées là qu'il faut récupérer. Je pense. Mais comment? Ah. Non, là ça me mène nulle part. C'est ce truc là qui me... C'est les trophées, alors à mon avis ils doivent mettre les trophées dedans, je sais pas. Ah, il est complètement fou ce jeu. Et ce saut là, je peux pas le ranger, rien là. Exit, exit, exit. Il va encore avoir le mur de pierre là. De briques. Ah non. Où il est après? Ah non. Ok. Une nouvelle salle.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Ouais, tu vas nous le dire combien de fois ça? Combien de fois tu vas nous le dire?
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Non mais c'est quoi ça? C'est quoi ça? Est-ce que là, du coup... Je sais pas, on commence le jeu réellement, on fait quoi là? Putain...
This
Oh,
is the
c'est incroyable.
story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company.
Non, 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 on va pas se retaper ça. Mais c'est quoi? Maintenant, il y a des ballons bleus. Secours.
All of his co-workers were
Ah,
gone.
secours.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh,
Stanley
secours.
felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing? When Stanley came to a set of two
Et il
open
décide de se...
doors,
Mais c'est
he
pas
entered the
possible de
door on
refaire les
his
mêmes
left.
choses.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ouais, on va retaper le code.
The moment he entered
So
his
reparti pour
manager's
un tour.
office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone?
Je crois que c'était
This was too
28-45, non?
much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Mais c'est défondu. C'est défondu, les mecs.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Là, ce coup-ci, on y va. On est déjà allé, hein, on l'a déjà fait, mais...
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Ouais, bah,
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
427, je crois.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
C'est ouf. On ou off? On.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation? Let's say, 2 minutes.
Quoi?
Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
Je ne sais pas par où commencer, mais moi non plus.
You'd like to know where your co-workers are?
A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you... This room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why do you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
Non, c'est trop. C'est trop. C'est trop ce jeu. C'est un jeu pour les fous, les gars. Et on recommence. Et l'histoire se répète. À nouveau. Ouais. Sans aucune signification de rien du tout. On ne sait pas. On ne sait rien.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps. And a painting. Was it a painting? Stanley picked up the bucket.
Quel est le rapport ce soir? Je n'en ai aucune putain d'idée.
Stanley the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was...
Était un endroit à ne pas manquer.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. Truly, being... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
On va l'écouter. Mais tout à l'heure, il nous mène un peu de partout. Et on ne sait rien. Et hop, on retourne à la scène de réunion.
Still no one was here.
Il n'y avait toujours personne.
Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Non, mais arrêtez vos délires là, putain. Là aussi, il est déjà allé, il y avait
Can
rien.
you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket.
Il veut
You
le
can
souffle.
feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy, it's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand
Ne
over
donnez
the
pas le
bucket.
seau.
I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend.
Qu'est-ce qu'il me
Can't hand
dit?
it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards
Non, mais
any
là, il me rend complètement jobarde.
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Je ne sais pas comment il a réussi à avoir autant de bonnes notes et tout. Je comprends pas les gens qui ont compris le jeu. Hey,
You found one of them.
J'ai
One of the
trouvé
miniature
une,
Stanley
oui, oui.
figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done.
En fait,
You
il faut
can't
trouver
buy
ses
that
trophées, je
sort of
pense.
happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Je crois qu'on pouvait pas rentrer ça tout à l'heure. Il me tord en deux ce jeu. Il me tord en deux. Quel est le but? À part de récupérer ces trophées là. Qu'on sait où il faut aller. Non mais là frère, on monte où là? On est revenu là où on était, non? Mais tordu ce jeu. Non là je suis en train de disjoncter là, complet. Oh là 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 là.
Stepping into his manager's
Entrons dans le
office,
bureau du chef.
Stanley was
Oui, on
once
sait.
again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Et si je montais, je peux pas monter? Non.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything
Le saut est
will
là
be
pour vous,
fine.
Stanley. Non, mais frère, elle est complètement cuit.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ah ouais, là-bas c'est Escape. Il y avait marqué Escape, ouais, toujours pareil. Là, on est reparti pour un tour.
The lights rose
Oh là
on
là
an
là là.
enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Non, non, mais là, frère, moi je pense que je vais quand même le poster sur YouTube pour les gens qui connaissent pas, qui verront un peu le genre de jeu que c'est, de malade mental, parce que je n'y comprends absolument rien. Je ne vois pas le but du jeu, à part trouver des trophées. Donc je pense qu'on va passer
The monitors
nous, à autre
jumped to
chose.
life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in
Parce que là,
shock.
honnêtement, bon, j'ai
Everyone
du
in
mal
the
à
office was being
m'y amuser, là.
videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it
Je m'attendais à un
gently,
truc un peu
reassuring
fada,
it
mais alors
that
là...
everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds
parle
of
de son
things
saut,
does
là,
a bucket
je-
want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble
Complètement
mind.
beurré.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Et là, on est
But
reparti
here
sur ce
was the
truc à la con.
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking,
Après, il y avait
eating,
plusieurs
working,
boutons, là.
all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery
Là, je vais mettre sur
would
off.
never again exert its terrible power over another human life. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin
Complètement
watching a
débile.
movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Oh là 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 là. Et c'est reparti pour un tour. Non, on repart pas là, les gars, on passe à autre chose. Parce que là, ce jeu, il est en train de me rendre taré. Ça fait 2h30 que j'essaie de le comprendre. Et bon, il n'y a pas grand chose à comprendre en vrai. Donc je vais mettre une petite pause, histoire de changer de jeu, un jeu que je voulais faire depuis un moment, mais que je n'ai jamais fait. On va l'essayer, je vous spoil pas, vous verrez après.